Guys, so today I wanted to film a kind of back to school makeup look. It's not going to be anything super minimal. It is going to be a full face, but it's going to be a little more toned down, not anything too dramatic, I hope. Let's see where this goes. Again, because this is a full face, it's probably going to be aimed at college-aged people because I don't know high school rules. When I was in high school, we were allowed to wear some makeup, but nothing that was super obvious and nothing that was like super bold or anything like that. So I'm gonna aim this towards college age students, but obviously if you're in high school and you are allowed to wear makeup, you can do whatever you want. I am going to start off with the NYX Angel Veil primer because this is the only drugstore primer I know of that is compatible with my skin type, which is kind of oily. Next up, I am going to do a little bit of color correcting with my LA Girl Pro Concealer, just because, I mean, I only got 4 hours of sleep last night, and I know that when you're a student, you don't always get a ton of sleep. Not everyone needs to color correct, but if you get dark under eye circles like me, color correcting can make you look a lot more awake than you really are. Now for my foundation, I'm going to use the CoverGirl Clean Matte BB Cream. I have heard rumors that this is going to be discontinued, but I hope not, because this is a really, really good BB cream at the drugstore for oily skinned people. I feel like the drugstore doesn't have a lot in terms of BB creams for those of us with oily skin, because I've tried a few and almost none of them, except for this CoverGirl one, can like hold up against my oily skin. And I think it's really, really perfect for students because it's not anything insanely heavy coverage and heavy duty. I put on quite a bit because I prefer a more medium coverage, but you don't have to use this much. You can get a really, really nice light coverage with this. If you don't need as much, or if you have problematic skin, then you can definitely build it up, and it still looks quite natural and not super heavy and cakey for everyday wear to go to school or work or whatever it is that you're going to every day. Concealer, I am going to use the LA Girl Pro Concealer once more. This is in a different color though, because this one is going to be a little bit lighter. Again, I mean, the color corrector before was to hide the under eye circles. This is more for a brightening effect on the under eye area. Putting a lighter, brighter concealer underneath your eyes is going to help you look more awake when you obviously are super exhausted if you're taking an 8 a.m. class. For highlighter, you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I'm going to use the Maybelline Master Strobing Liquid Highlighter in the shade 100 to kind of ensure that my highlighter stays in place all day. Even though the highlighter that I'm going to be using usually does stay in place, I just like to be a little bit extra. You could only use this liquid highlighter and it would still give you a really nice natural glowy effect, but I like the intense highlighter look, so I'm going to be doing the liquid and the powder. Now I'm going to bake my face with the Coty Airspun Loose Setting Powder. This can be like a little bit extra. You don't necessarily have to bake, but I have oily skin and I definitely notice a difference between when I bake and when I don't bake. So for long days, like when I go to school, I definitely have to do this or else my makeup will not last nearly as long. Alright, so I went ahead and set the rest of my face with the Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless Powder, and I did my eyebrows with the Rimmel Brow This Way Kit and the Essence Make Me Brow Gel. For my eyes, I'm going to be using the e.l.f. Mad for Matte palette, and I'm going to be taking this like white creamy shade right here, and I'm just going to use that to highlight the brow bone a little bit, which I don't usually do, but I've been getting in the habit of doing it recently. So highlighting the brow bone with that white creamy shade. Then next, I'm gonna take this 4th shade right here and use that as my transition color. We're not gonna do anything too crazy on the eyes, but it's gonna be a really simple look. Then for my crease, we're gonna take the 3rd shade right there, and I'm just gonna toss that all over my crease. I don't want anything too deep and dark on my eyes today. Then for a little bit of a more defining color, I'm going to be using this shade right here. I wish these had names, but this is a really awesome drugstore matte palette for $10, I think, and the drugstore is really lacking in matte eyeshadows, so the fact that they have this really good all matte palette for $10, I'm not gonna complain about that at all. I've been waiting to pull this out for like the fall time, and I'm just gonna use my fingers and put that right on my lid. Going to wipe off that loose powder that I've still got under my eyes and on my nose area. And you don't have to do this, you can totally just take your regular highlighter and do this, but I want a little bit more of a whiter inner corner highlight. So I'm going to go into my Rimmel Keep Calm and Wear Gold palette, and I'm only going to use this shade right here as my inner corner highlight. Contour, I'm going to be using my Wet n Wild Dulce de Leche contouring kit as always. This is such a really nice, finely milled contour product from the drugstore, and it's not crazy expensive. It's like $5, I think, maybe even less. This foundation is just slightly too light for me, so I'm going to really load up on the bronzer, and I'm going to use my Wet n Wild Bikini Contest bronzer, and I'm kind of going to smother myself in it, basically. Blush, I'm going to be using my Wet n Wild blush in the shade Rosé Champagne, and honestly, this is kind of like a bronzery blush, so if you pile on the bronzer like I did, I don't really think you need to put on blush, but it's just an extra step that I like to take. Now for highlight, I'm going to use my Wet n Wild Precious Petals highlighter. This is one of my favorite highlighters, not just from the drugstore, but just in my collection in general. It is such a strong, blinding highlight, especially with that liquid illuminator underneath it. You don't need to put the powder on top. I don't know if it picked up on camera, but the liquid highlighter, even with my face powders on top, still was really beautiful. It was subtle, but it was really nice and glowy still. I just kind of like that extra oomph, so I'm going to be going with the powder. Now to set that all in place, I'm going to use my Mario Badescu Rose Water Spray. And for my lips, I'm going to use the Maybelline Superstay Matte Ink Liquid Lipstick in the shade Lover. So yeah, this is basically the finished look. I feel like this is very work and school appropriate. It's not a minimal makeup look by any means, but I mentioned in the beginning that it wasn't going to be. But this is still very understated in my opinion. We didn't go too bold on the eyes or the lips, and I feel like this is just like a really gorgeous, cute makeup look that is all affordable stuff, all drugstore, that you can use to school or work. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already to make sure you can stick around for the next one, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!